This week, we come to you from Diepsloot, an informal settlement in northern Johannesburg, sandwiched between wealthy Dainfern and Stain City. This area is known for its tales of despair, but we found two young women cycling their way out of poverty. We're also in Pietermaritzburg, where the Umsunduzi municipality squares off against the landless. This is Checkpoint, and I'm Nkepile Mabuse. Here in Diepsloot, 12,000 people occupy every square kilometre, and it's often hard to find hope. Later on the show, we speak to two young residents determined to change the narrative. But first, we go to Pietermaritzburg, where people who've occupied municipal land say they're sick and tired of government promises. The Umsunduzi municipality has turned to the courts to take action against the so-called land invaders. A decision could take months, but in the meantime, tensions are rising. This report by producer Jackie J. Yamaha.
In September, residents of Site 11, an overcrowded settlement on the outskirts of Pietermaritzburg, took to the streets in protest. They were demanding land and houses.
Blocks for the toilet, you got the house madhouse. It doesn't feel right. The empty promises, it's the time to end.
A week before the protest, people from this community invaded vacant municipal land on the opposite side of Otto's Bluff Road. The road separates Site 11 from Woodlands, a formerly coloured area. When the municipality asked them to leave, they set up barricades along the road, and the situation degenerated into anarchy. Thousands of people then moved into a forest owned by a local timber company and began cutting down and burning trees to put up shacks. David Walter's home in Woodlands overlooks the plantation.
It was shocking because, you know, nobody wants squatter camps behind you. If it's going to be houses and a proper development, it's fine, but to have squatters right here behind on my back fence, it was scary.
Unlike Site 11, Woodlands is an established suburb. David recently paid over $1 million for a house here. He and his wife Michelle are concerned that the invasions will affect the value of their property.
We can't all just do as we please and cut up a piece of land and erect a building or erect a shack and just say, it's my new home. Everyone that's in Woodlands has worked hard. They've bought their homes, they've paid for their homes, still paying for their homes.
Racial tensions have flared up. The so-called land invaders accuse coloureds of ganging up on them.
We are black people, nobody wants to worry about us. They're sitting on a nice houses there, we're sitting on the bush this side. So nobody cares about us.
But at the end of the day, they didn't know what we were thinking, and we didn't know what they were thinking.
The Umsunduzi municipality got a temporary interdict to stop the invasions, but the settlers kept marking out their plots.
7, 8, 9, 10.
Then the municipality took action. Seppo Pakis was there when the council and the police arrived to tear down the shacks. He says the police got heavy-handed.
They were standing here, we were standing this side, and they were shooting towards people. Yes. Right? They were shooting towards people.
Shooting?
You're shooting that side. Rubber bullets and tear.
We're not fighting with the cops at all on that day, yeah? We're not fighting. We're just standing as we're standing now. The cops were standing right there, 500 meters away from us. So how can you shoot when you're standing so far?
A rubber bullet hit him on the neck. Tear gas canisters were fired into a nearby creche. These photographs of gas billowing into the school were taken by Tsepo's friend, an amateur photographer. 5-year-old Oletu was in the creche when it was gassed. Her teacher, who asked us to hide her identity, says children were battling to breathe. Some of the children had to be taken to hospital. These photographs were taken by one of the parents. No one was spared. Margaret Majola lives across the road from the creche with her disabled daughter. SAP spokesperson, Colonel Jay Naika, says his officers were defending themselves.
They had almost completed removing all of the structures on that property when they came under attack from residents.
This cell phone footage shows the municipality and the police leaving. A crowd armed with sticks is seen in the background.
They started blockading the roads, burning tires on the roads, and then they followed up by stoning members of the SAPS as well as the municipality.
We asked him if police did intelligence gathering before the operation to find out if there were children or vulnerable people at risk.
Yes, prior to that, they did go to the area and warn members of the community that there is, this action taking place and that there might be possible repercussions. So according to the local police, that was done.
But certainly not taken into account on the day. The school teacher told us police officers visited the creche a few days later.
After the break, what does the council say?
People just hear there's some land and they started invading.
There's been a sharp rise in service delivery protests countrywide in the last 10 years, with 43 deaths. And as housing remains elusive, more and more people are taking matters into their own hands, like those who've settled on land near Otto's Bluff in KZN.
There were 8 violent service delivery protests in KZN in September about housing, water and sanitation, political representation and electricity. Olwetu and her mother, Linda Kushle, live with 3 other people in this one-roomed mud house in the Site 11 informal settlement. The settlement was started in 1996, when land was allocated by government to people in need of somewhere to live. But families have grown and extra dwellings have not been added. Mother and daughter have been living like this since Olwetu was born.
If ufuna ukushintsha, let's say kunengane lapha la ngihlala khona ina 14, mangifuna ukushintsha mina ngifuna ngihambe ngebathroom ngiyoshintsha khona. Naye futhi mayifuna ukushintsha iyahamba ku one room asikwazi kulona. Kushare one room.
It seems it's this anger and frustration that lies at the heart of these protests. No one around here works, so they have plenty of time to express their grievances. Sepo, who we met during the invaders' protest, has no work.
It's not in a good condition because of, as you see. So come in and see, have a look, take a look for yourselves. Yeah, I'm staying, it's me, it's my daughter, and my other son, and their mother. That's us. This is where we stay, all of us. Some they sleep on the floor, as you say, only one, they have one bed.
They survive on the money his girlfriend, Linda Kushle, makes as a waitress. They hope their protests will force change.
Ngoba ngaso sonke isikhathi makuvote baye basipromise bathi sizonenzela ukuthi sizonenzela mhlawumbe sizonakhela izindlu into eningi wasipromise zona kodwa once kwaphela ukuvota bayakhohlwa abasenzeli yonke lento leyo.
Mary Skalkwyk is ANC councillor for Ward 32, which incorporates Site 11 and Woodlands.
You cannot just get up in the morning and say that we want that piece of land because we want to go and build houses there. You've got to get yourself onto a housing list, which our municipality has a housing list.
She says some of the invaders aren't from the area.
There were people from as far as out as Escort and all people just hear there's some land and they started invading.
David says when they heard there were busloads of people arriving, they tried to contact Mary, but she never responded.
We didn't know what was happening, and that's why a conflict developed between Site 11 and Woodlands.
In fact, people at Site 11 say Mary has been avoiding them for months, which is why they invaded.
They come and sway us, monkeys, the invaders, all that, without coming and share our view and hear what we have to say.
Who's calling you those things? The councillor.
Mary denies insulting her constituents and says they threatened her when she tried to meet with them after the invasion.
The one lady said to me, this is going to be Marikwana number 2. And I asked her why. She said that they came here to get houses and that's what they're going to do. Nobody will put them off that land. So I decided to close the meeting and leave.
She says security took her to a safe house. We asked her if she knew about the creche being tear-gassed.
No, I wasn't aware, but I do know because before I became a councillor, I ran a creche, the Amy Beale, and most of the children that are at that creche, they come from that informal settlement, Site 11 in Happy Valley. I've got a very, very close tie with the people from there. Very, 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 very close tie with them. And I'm not taking the police's part, but I can't see how will police tear gas.
Residents like Cardi Williams from Woodlands and his neighbour Tsepo are trying to mend fences.
The councillor is snubbing this community and the area on that side, and the mayor is also nowhere to be found. So people we got nowhere to turn to. Who do we turn to? Who can help us?
We had an appointment with the Msunduzi municipality mayor about solutions, but the interview was cancelled just before we arrived. So we phoned municipal manager Mtolisi Nkosi. Why won't anyone talk to us about this matter?
Because the matter is sub judice. We went to court 2 weeks back. The matter was not resolved. The land invaders were given the opportunity to submit their replying affidavits, which they have not done.
He said a housing plan is on the cards of Site 11, but couldn't say when.
So the municipality is not in the business of giving people.
The municipality have applied to the court to prevent the invaders from illegally occupying municipal land. Professor Warren Friedman is an expert in land use and planning law. He says government have an emergency housing policy.
And that really arose out of a very famous judgment by the Constitutional Court called Grootboom. And in the Grootboom case, essentially what was argued was that the government's housing policy was unconstitutional because although it had medium and long-term goals, it didn't have short-term goals. It didn't have any policy in place to deal with those who were in dire need. And the sorts of people we're talking about who are in dire need are those, for example, who've been evicted and in fact have nowhere to go.
The courts will have to decide if the invaders fit the criteria. The case has been postponed till mid-October because the municipality hasn't provided a complete list of the alleged land invaders and legal aid needs time to file affidavits. The invaders have agreed to stay off the land for now.
We're planning from going to court and come back and build. But since it's like this, we're going to follow the court orders.
As for Mary, she seems to be in denial.
So let us not come here to fight about land invaders because there is no more land invaders.
the ruling party has advocated a better life for everybody. But if you just look around you, show me a better life. This is not what the fruits of 1994 were all about. This is not what the people who fought for democracy was about. Mud huts, lack of sewage, lack of infrastructure, disease, social evil, and that's not what our forefathers fought for. That can't be.
When we return, ending the cycle of misery in Diepsloot. More than 60% of Diepsloot's residents are under the age of 18. For youngsters, there's nothing much to do around here. Sports facilities are few, entertainment limited. But here's a story of two girls whose lives have changed forever because they found themselves on a bicycle.
When I'm on my bike, I get the most amazing feeling. I just feel like a pro, like top notch. I feel on top of the world. When I'm on top of my bike, I feel like flying, you know? So, I get goosebumps. It's like, I don't know if it makes sense, but like innocence. This is when I feel free, when I'm on my bike. It's like, it's just not complicated. I come from Diepsloot. It's a very ghetto area. There's a lot of gangsterism, crime, rape as well. I don't think it's a place where people want to be. I think they're there because they have no other place to be. It's not such a community where you can regard yourself as being safe. My family was going through the financial situations. So firstly, my brother and I, we were taken out of school. We're told that we're going to do homeschooling, but then that is even more expensive. From that part in my life, I like zoned out. I would sit there and do nothing. I didn't even go out of the yard anymore. I just lived, but I don't know how. After my dad passed away in 2003, my mom fought with my dad's parent. They were basically fighting for who me and my sister should go stay with because we using my father's surname. So we had to stay behind. My mom had to come to Joburg to look for a job to support us. We got beaten every day. Every time when you come back from school, you know that you're going to be beaten, even if you didn't do anything wrong. You know a shambok they beat cows with. Each and every one of us had her own shambok to be beaten with. There's this day whereby they asked me to beat my sister up with that shambok. The next morning when we had to go to school, my sister couldn't walk. That is what you had to do, because if you didn't do it, they'd beat you until you bleed. It was the 28th of January on a Monday. It's just an ordinary day. My dad was a taxi owner, but he drives one of his own taxis. And you know, the taxi feuds and stuff, it's all crazy. So he knew, I should say, inside information. And there are people who didn't want him to know that information. So he got several threats. We were on our way driving home. All of a sudden, it's just like dark. There were no cars at all, like no cars. And then there's a car that overtakes us, but when it starts overtaking, it bumps the corner of the taxi. It was a black car and with a gun out of the window. And I'm like, Dad, stop, they have a gun. They were shooting and shooting and shooting. And then finally, when they stopped shooting, the car just sped off. And I went to the front of the car where my dad was lying. And I tried, and I checked his pulse, and he wasn't breathing, and there was no heartbeat. I got sick whereby I couldn't do anything. And instead of them taking me to the hospital or clinic just to check what's happening, they just decided, no, we'll call her mom to come back from Joburg to take Lebo to the hospital. My mom was so angry. When she got there, she just decided, you know what, I'm just going to take my kids with me because I can't bear this anymore. And that's when we started staying here in Diepsloot, 2006. I had no friends, I had nothing to do. I was always at home. Then I started cycling.
Today, as usual, we're going to have a 15K ride. And as you know, Zama and Lebo, as your captains, one of you have to ride at the back and one of you have to ride at the front, just to guard the...
We started the Diepsloot project with a view to taking kids from a distressed kind of background and environment and give them the opportunity to participate in cycling. Initially, the idea was to focus on the cycling itself. And in the early days, we had a theme which was the 3 C's of success: commitment, courage, and concentration. And we try to teach the kids that whatever you do in life can be emulated through cycling. The philosophy behind the academy is that we use mountain biking primarily as a means to create opportunities for these kids to develop themselves. And I'm emphasizing developing themselves because there's only so much that we can do for them. They have to learn themselves that they must participate, that they must see the future, and that they have to have the desire to succeed.
When I fell pregnant, I was 17 years old. My first time when I slept with him, I fell pregnant. After the pregnancy, most girls drop out of school and their lives are just ruined by pregnancy. But for me, I'm glad it's a different story. After the whole background of how I grew up, I don't actually believe in someone telling me how to live. I want to enjoy life because I believe this is the chance for me to enjoy. I am really close to him and I love him so much.
There was an event here at the Diepsloot Mountain Biking Academy. It was the launch of the Absa Cape Epic team. They needed speakers, so I spoke there, and one of the people in the team was Joel Stransky. After I had finished speaking, Joel came to me and he's like, Zama, what school do you go to? And I'm like, oh, I don't go to any school. And he's like, well, I'm going to put you in school. Now I am in the American International School of Johannesburg.
As a rider, I never thought I'd come where I am right now. I just got chosen to go represent South Africa internationally in the Youth Olympics, Nanjing, China. I was so proud of myself and I was so glad that my mom could believe in me once again, that I can also be capable of doing more things than just to disappoint people.
One of the greatest things about the project is that we've got participants in the project who have been successful. They've all come from the same place as the kids who are currently participating in the project have come from. And they've been given this opportunity and they've done something with it.
It also teaches you to be self-driven, to be self-inspired, and to do the extraordinary things that you never thought of doing. I just thought it was another family and a home away from home.
Like, it looks so dull back then, and now I see like bright futures, like the can.
That's all from us this week. Please do give us your feedback. Our Twitter handle is @checkpoint_eNCA. Thanks for watching. I'm Ngepile Mabuse.